is Tzvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop. Now, I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the channel, which is weird, because I think I mentioned pretty much everything about myself I can possibly think of on this channel at some time or another, but I don't think I ever brought this up. My favorite book is Fahrenheit 451. I love Fahrenheit 451. I would love there to be a good movie made out of it, and I'm really glad there hasn't been a movie made out of it. I even like the 1960s version with Julie Christie, which is very much not like the book, but there's a lot like it, and it pulls out a lot of the things from the book. But yeah, I absolutely adore Fahrenheit 451. If you haven't read it, strong recommend. Not that Ray Bradbury needs my approbation. So another book in that same that came out in the same genre, I would say, Clockwork Orange. I will put Clockwork Orange and Fahrenheit 451 reasonably similar in that, you know, they're both intellectually lauded sci-fi books about dystopia, right? Dystopian future that we get into by sheer stupidity. Basically, the dystopian future that we are all living in now, right? So there's a scene in the movie version of Clockwork Orange which isn't very good, right? Is not very good. Really, and I like Kubrick. I love Stanley Kubrick, but I would love there to be a book accurate version of it. I mean, maybe a radio play. I would love that. Where there's a scene in it where basically the story is they take this homicidal, awful thug, and they reprogram him to be terrified and be nauseous whenever he thinks about violence. So there's a bit in his reprogramming of it where they start playing Beethoven and classical music, and he begs them, "No, don't turn me against this. Don't do that. That's the worst thing ever. That you're turning this art against me." And they basically make him into a non-functional human being. And the end of the book is really different, by the way. The end of the book is they just kind of get old and they go, yeah, kids do stupid stuff, and they grow out of it. I mean, that's essentially, spoiler alert, I mean, it's like, 60 years old or whatever, you know. But I feel the same way with this story. This is why I really had to make a video on it. Thank you very much to John F. Trent for bringing it up. Ray Bradbury Experience Museum uses out-of-context Bradbury quote to call the January 6th protesters domestic terrorists. Now, if there's ever been some dystopian Orwellian nightmare crap going down, it's the January 6th Commission in the US, which we're going to be talking about. And the use of the quote is it's beyond the opposite of the intention. It's breathtaking. It's absolutely breathtaking. Well, it took my breath away anyway. But anyway, fine. Before we get into it, can you hit the like button, share button, subscribe button? If you're on Rumble, hit the Rumble button. It's a little plus thing, apparently. I really, they should have just had a big button say Rumble on it. Hit the Rumble button. But no, just teeny tiny little plus. It's very, very, uninspiring. On Substack, sign up to my Substack. My Substack, freaking awesome. It's basically it's an email newsletter that you can comment on the post. I post all my videos of content I put out on it, but I try and put a lot more content out on as well. So we have comic books going on there. We have the Ice Warriors. That's Sunday Comics. We got another one which I'm running right now, but I'm going to take it off there soon. It's called Red Ghost. It's going to be on for another 2-3 weeks. Because I also have a paid Substack, and if you would like to support me, I would like to be supported. Let me be frank. That Jewish stereotype about liking money, with me anyway, completely true. Like, completely, I do like money, right? I do like money, and I don't like hoarding it like Scrooge McDuck. I actually like spending money, okay? I don't like money intrinsically, so I like getting stuff for money. So if you would like to support me, thank you very much. I have a paid version, and I'm putting out stonking great stuff on that. Thank you very much. But honestly, thank you just for showing up. Really, thank you for watching this video. If you hit the subscribe button, that'll be fan, that'll be double dosing. So anyway, let me bring. If you're in England, you probably don't. I think even if you're in America, you probably don't know what's really going on with the January 6th thing. So on January 6th was supposed to be this day of protest. So January 6th, 2021, right? Yeah, 2021. January 6th was supposed to be a day of protest because there are all these, in the US election, there were all these really, really severe questions on the electoral process, right? Listen, if somebody was going to steal an election in this way, I don't know how it would look any different, right? But there was like a lot of serious questions. So, for example, one state, Wisconsin, which was heavily predicted to go towards Trump when Democrat. It turns out they have between 50,000 and 70,000 ballots that don't have the addresses on them and haven't been verified in any way. There's no signature. There's no way to work out if they're legal ballots or if they're just somebody writing Donald Duck on them, right? No. Now the reason they were added into the ballot, into the count, was because the Democrat Secretary of State changed the law. All this stuff is boring, right? It is boring. You are right saying it's boring, but changed the law to allow them to be added in, which was against their own constitution because it has to be done by the state legislature. I told you this is boring stuff, which is what they're really banking on. So anyway, there were lots and lots of these questions, like lots of them. I mean, and so much testimony of people seeing irregularities, but every court challenge was rejected on standing. They didn't look at the evidence. They just said, no, we're not going to deal with that. And I think half the time that's because we're talking about insanely partisan people. And the other half of the time, when I say partisan, I'm not saying left-wing or right-wing partisan. I'm saying establishment. Establishment or not. Interesting enough, I think the whole cultural divide, especially in America, is a class warfare more than anything else. You have this ruling elite class, so I would say overeducated with way too much money, that has nothing but absolute disdain for the regular people. I mean, I think the reason the Hillary Clinton deplorables thing resonates so well is because it's so obviously what's going on. So I don't think it's anything to do with right or left wing. I think the right wing people, the Republicans in Congress, normally equally as bad. So there's the left wing one. They are. I mean, it's all just anyway. So Trump was generally hated by the establishment, but not as hated as he was by the intelligence community, which had been running operations on him through his entire presidency. So anyway, January 6th happens, and Trump's giving a speech saying we are going to peacefully protest and peacefully and patriotically protest. They've scrubbed that speech from the internet completely now because they say that incited the worst insurrection in US history, which is a bit weird because it seemed a lot more mild than the insurrections we saw several months before that being encouraged and supported by the people saying this was the worst. It was very sad, but people did breach the Capitol, and there's been a bunch of people in jail ever since. But what really happened, right? What really happened? That seems to be one of the many narratives that's unraveling right now. There's apparently this guy called Ray Epps. Go look him up. Ray Epps is on lots and lots of footage, cell phone footage of him going, yeah, we're going to storm the Capitol. We're going to go right in, and seems to be very, very much in charge of leading what they're calling the insurrection, right? He was seemed to be the chief instigator of it. In fact, and whilst Trump was speaking, during the timeline is actually quite important. While Trump was speaking, he was the one who went to the Capitol, and you've seen pictures of people tearing down barriers so they can go into the Capitol. That was then. At the same time, most people didn't know about that. And when they walked over the Capitol, they found no barriers as normally were, and they just wandered in. And that's kind of how we saw the footage that we saw, them people just being wandering in, right? So the Biden government are very much using this to create, I would say, a secret police and go after anybody who is guilty of wrongthing, right? Guilty of questioning anything, guilty, and they very, very much in step with social media. I'll be surprised if this video stays up. Oh, this is just my opinion. Anyway, so it seems so. This guy Ray Epps for some reason has been completely removed from the FBI list. People they wanted to arrest, even though chief instigator and people have done far less have been in solitary confinement for months without any legal representation. So They asked, yeah. So it seems to be. He was a government agent. On some videos, people kept say, "You must be a Fed." Why would I think such a crazy thing, right? Because several months earlier, there was an attempt to do something very similar in Michigan, which was to storm the Michigan Congress and kidnap the mayor. Was it Lori Lightfoot, I think? But it turns out that of the 26 people involved in that, 12 of them were FBI operatives who kind of planned the whole thing. And then the person who was in charge of that was then moved to Washington to oversee security again by the Australians. So it just seems there's a lot of dirty, fishy stuff going on, and a questioning mind would indeed question it. Which I find it quite strange then, because a questioning mind really started with Fahrenheit 451. I absolutely adore this book, right? Fahrenheit 451 is a book about thinking for yourself, like not swallowing the group thing, right? Think and come up with your own opinions, and you know the importance of interpreting information and data yourself. You know, they have a big thing about comparing TV information and getting information from a book, right? With TV information, you have no control of how it's inputted into you. You are at the mercy of the thing pumping it out to you. However, when you read a book, you control that you control that experience, and you control how you assimilate that information, right? So yeah, all these things are really clever ideas, which I really like, which are now being absolutely perverted to tell us this nonsense. Ray Bradbury Experience Museum uses out-of-context Bradbury quote to call the January 6th protesters domestic terrorists. So this is the other thing you want to know. That there's a big move by the Biden government to label anybody who doesn't agree with the Biden government a domestic terrorist. If you heard of the Carl Rittenhouse case, now Carl Rittenhouse was somebody who went out to a very civically responsible young man, right? Very civically responsible young man went out to offer medical aid to one of these Black Lives Matter riots and to defend the place he worked. To say it wouldn't burn, because they're burning down car lots left, right, and centre, right? And he thought just having some kind of presence there, armed presence there, which he was legally allowed to, would deter it from being burnt down. So there was a guy who was released from mental hospital that day who threatened to kill him, right? Threatened to kill him, said, "I don't care if I go back to prison again," right? Was seen on the side of the Black Lives Matter protests, obviously. Was seen chasing him on multiple footage, right? Grabbed his gun to shoot him and probably shoot other people. At which point Rittenhouse opened fire with an incredibly precise shot and killed him, right? Killed him. And he was then chased down by the mob, who he shot two more people, and one fatally, one not fatally. Again, and the amazing thing is, everything that exonerated this kid, making clear this story was self-defense, was the evidence was held by the FBI on high def footage, which only came out because of their bungling during the trial. So anyway, there was a big push to say the story was in fact this Rittenhouse kid was a white supremacist, was a domestic terrorist, white supremacist who shot black people who couldn't stand them protesting how their lives didn't matter to the police, and that was all a nonsense. But that nonsense is there to facilitate this narrative. Right, this narrative that the biggest threat to America are these people who don't like the Biden government. Right, so much so. This is just another one. It just came out 2 days ago. Right, the Department of Justice asked these teachers union to write them a letter saying they're scared of domestic terrorism in schools, because all these school balls have been going on where parents have been turning up and saying, "Why are you giving my kid pornography to teach them how to perform fellatio?" You know, which sounds to be a little bit exaggerated, but it's actually what's going on. Why are you teaching my children racism with the critical race theory? And all these things, and people are very upset by it. In fact, one father whose daughter was raped in a bathroom by a non-binary boy because he was there because of their transgender policies. Was then framed as being the domestic terrorist when he was like wrestled to the ground for police when this weird teacher or activist said, "Your daughter's making it all up. She just hates." And he didn't even raise his fist. They just were scared. They wrestled him to the ground. They used those pictures, that video, and to say, "Look at these parents out of control." Turns out, all a psyop, all a psychological operation. It was the absolute opposite of reality. Are you getting a theme here, going over and over and over again? Right? It was the absolute opposite of reality. But yeah, so they used this letter to justify setting up the secret police, which is what they've done now. So okay. Listen, I'm glad I believe in God, because I think if there is no God to step in, America is done for, right? I mean, which is, you may live in England, you may, like me, live in Israel. Something like that, the world's greatest democracy going down is like the Titanic going down, where we will all be sucked under with it, right? Listen, being sucked under may sound quite fun, let me tell you, but the reality, not so much so. Anyway, so let's read this story. With all that information up front, let's read this story and we'll see how, teacher Jewish, we'll see what a shonder is. Disgrazia! You guys see, I'm multicultural. The Ray Bradbury Experience Museum decided to weaponize Ray Bradbury during the context, using out-of-context quotes to condemn the January 6 protesters as domestic terrorists. In a post shared to Facebook, the Ray Bradbury Experience asked the question, what would a great Ray Bradbury said today? He was said, "Oh my God, we're being taken over by totalitarian," I can't say the word on YouTube, naughty National Socialists. We're being taken, all our civil rights are being stripped. We must fight, is probably what he would say. Just, and again, I'm not saying fight physically, obviously not, because YouTube will take me down. They repeated their question before answering. What were Ray Bradbury said about the events of last January 2021? We know exactly where these two quotes reflected his viewpoint. You lying pieces of shit. The museum, one, his conviction, the other, his warning. We believe he'd stand by them today. And if you decide to debate his views, he'll be the first to say, go ahead. We're not debating his views. We're not even debating your disingenuous use of his views out of context to justify, again, totalitarianism, the stripping of individual rights and freedom, right? That's what why? Because they're politically, they don't align with you. I mean, really? This is like, this is the thing that will get Ray Bradbury turning in his grave. The first quote they would use a National Endowment of the Arts documentary titled "A Conversation with Ray Bradbury" said, "If you know how to read, you have a complete education about life. Then you know how to vote within a democracy." Yeah, exactly. Just to be clear, let's go back to the actual root of this thing, right? The actual root of the protest. There's essentially a bunch of people saying, we think these ballots entered in without any security whatsoever are questionable because we have all these witnesses who saw them many questionable activities. Could you open up these ballots and verify them to make sure they are indeed valid? And I don't understand why anybody who is honest would be afraid of that. But of course, people afraid of that are people who are very much in the bag for the Biden administration. Boy, I wonder how many of them feel like schmucks today. Right? A year later, I wonder how many of them feel like schmucks today. And I think the other courts that refuse to look at these really breathtaking, like absolutely breathtaking questions upon electoral integrity, might have been a bit nervous that Black Lives Matter and Antifa may have burnt their houses down, as they threatened to do to anybody going against the groupthink, right? If you have if you know how to read, you have an education, you have a complete education about life, then you know how to vote within a democracy. That's our bloody problem, mate, right? Why are you scared of checking these ballots? It's because you know you're full of shit, isn't it? Right? Bottom line, you know these ballots. Okay, Biden won by 2,000 or 3,000, 10,000, not much, right? in these swing states. Then there are 60 to 100,000 ballots in each state, which are a bit dodgy. Which are the ones they say no. We're not going to look at them. We're not going to look at them. No, and you're a racist for asking us to look at them. Again, wouldn't be quite so as egregious if they didn't spend the last 4 years saying, "Oh, this election has no security at all." Right? And again, don't expect consistency or honesty. This is not a right versus left thing. I really believe this is like a elite versus people, a some kind of culture war. And these people at the Ray Bradbury Institute of Museum want to be on the elitist side of the culture, right? That's very, very clear. That's the great thing about a country. We're a democracy of readers, and we should keep it that way. Well, how many people read about the Hunter Biden laptop? Really? No. Were you on board with the censorship? Right? Were you on board with the relentless disinformation, right? The relentless disinformation, which has resulted in disaster upon disaster upon disaster. The second one is from a book, Fahrenheit 441. Love this book. If you don't want to build a house, hide the nails and wood. If you don't want a man to be happy politically, don't give him two sides of the question to worry about. Really? Have you seen CNN recently? Have you seen MSNBC recently? Yeah, do they give you both sides of the question to think about? Better yet, give him one. Better yet, give him none. Can you think of a better way of describing both our news media, our entertainment media, and our social media? Right? And this is somehow to say, okay, I wonder how they're going to try and tie this together. Museum that condemned the January 6th protesters and maligned them as domestic terrorists said, they wrote Ray Bradbury Experience Museum with stands with the American Library Association. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Anybody involved with academics are probably on the wrong side of history. And the last people before these nuts cases who use the phrase "wrong side of history" were indeed those National Socialists from Germany in the 1930s. ALA falsely condemns the violent attempts to undermine our integrity of our electoral process and democracy. Here's the thing. They truly believe this. They believe it was a coup. They believe it was an attempted coup, and the other half of the equation believe it was a successful coup, right? So, everybody thinks it was a coup. That's just one way or another. The threats, destruction of government buildings and looting witnessed on January 16th do not constitute peaceful protest, but domestic terrorism. And again, how does this tie into the Black Lives Matter riots? That took place. I mean, again, during the Rittenhouse trials, they had one of the things was they were allowed to call them riots. They weren't allowed to call them protesters. And I'm sorry, if you can have a guy on CNN standing in front of a gas station on fire saying it's a mostly peaceful protest, right? And you have 300,000-400,000 people, and a couple of hundred of them riots, seemingly controlled and spurred on by the FBI, right? That's what the Ray Epps thing seems to telling us. In the Michigan assassination, a kidnap plot seems to be telling us, right? It seems to be exactly that. It seems to be that this is a rather disingenuous double standard. And when you have a double standard, you know what standard you have? You have no bloody standard. Here at Rabbi, we are Ray Bradbury Experience Museum. We are part of the democracy of readers. We strive to raise ideas about banned books. Again, what the hell? How much thought is banned? You're part of the thought police. Comics, Life on Mars, and Mars. Just sharing his imagination. In a section of the video entitled Censorship, Book Burning and Democracy, Bradbury begins talking about how the leader of the naughty National Socialism from Germany in the 1930s, burning of books and Stalin's execution of writers. Again, do we have a free, open exchange of ideas in our public space? No, we don't. Big tech media doesn't want us to do that, and they are hand in glove with the Biden administration. He says, we should learn from history about the destruction of books. When I was 15, naughty man from Germany in 1930s burned books in the streets of Berlin, and it terrified me because I was a librarian and I was he was touching my life. Those great plays, those great poetry, all those wonderful essays, all those great philosophers, Bradbury, Dr. Fauci, one of the big members of the Biden administration. Through again, everything's unraveling. Every narrative is completely unraveling. Not that it matters, because we live in Fahrenheit 451 world where nobody really cares about any of this stuff, right? Everyone is asleep at the wheel, and we are not heading anywhere good. We are not heading anyway good. But what was it? So Bradbury elaborated. So it became very personal, didn't it? Then he discussed the Soviet Union. Then I found out about Russia burning books behind it. Again, are there ideas and thoughts suppressed that are legitimate, non-violent, non-racist, non-bigoted? Yes, obviously. Yeah. Anybody who questions any narrative about anything, right? Oh, sorry, I mentioned Fauci just now. This was last week. One of them, an email was just released showing how he conspired to get high-level scientific peers discredited as fringe kooks because they disagreed with his clearly wrong decisions he was making. Fine. So I learned how dangerous it was, because if you didn't have books and the ability to read, you couldn't be part of civilization. You couldn't be part of democracy. Bradbury then stated leaders in various countries are scared of books because books teach things that they don't want to have taught. Exactly. He continued, well, if you know how to read and have a complete education about life, you know how to vote within democracy, but if you don't know how to read, you don't know how to decide. That's the great thing about our country. It was the great thing about our country, is that we're a democracy of readers, and we should keep it that way. It's not that way, right? America is not the America that you think that it was, that we grew up with. Looking at full concept quote, it's absurd that he would condemn his fellow American. Yeah, exactly. But the second quote, Fahrenheit 451, the book's antagonist, Captain Beatty, during a discussion with Guy Montag about the death of Clarice McClellan. Beatty tells Montag, we know how to nip most of it in the bud early. You can just build, you can't build a house without nails or wood. That's why we have this suppression of thought, suppression of speech, suppression of ideas. If you don't want to have a house built, hide the wood, hide the nails. If you don't want a man unhappy politically, don't give him both sides of the question to worry about. Worry him. That's exactly what our news media does, right? And that's why everyone's asleep at the wheel. The year in Corona, when people saw what their kids were learning in school, terrified so many parents when they actually found out. And yet again, and then they had another mono story, which was a complete lie, saying, "Oh no, these critical race theory isn't taught in schools. That's a college course. This is just a right wing, a Fox News smear." Yes, this course critical race theory isn't taught to 3-year-olds. The principles of critical race theory, in that black people are intrinsically victims and white people are intrinsically persecutors. That's the cornerstone of the philosophy behind much teaching in America now. Give them let them forget there is such a thing as war. If the government is inefficient, top-heavy, and tax-mad, better it be all those things that people won't worry about it. That's what we're living in now. Peace, Montag. Give the people contests they win by remembering words to a more popular song, or the names of capitals, or how much corn was grown in Iowa last year. You don't even get that intellectualism nowadays. The speech goes on. Cram their heads full of non-combustible data. Chock them full of facts. Chock them full of facts. They feel stuffed, absolutely brilliant with information. They feel like they're thinking. They'll get a sense of motion without moving, and they'll be happy because the facts of that sort don't change. Give them any slippery stuff like philosophy or sociology, will tie them up. there will that way lies melancholy. Yeah, listen, Matrix said, yeah, ignorance is bliss, mate, and I can't argue you there. Any man who can take a TV wall apart and put it back together, and most men can nowadays, is happier than any man who tries to slide rule, measure, and equate the universe. Which just won't be measured or equated without a man making man feel bestial and lonely. Okay, I know I've tried it. To hell with it, BT says. So. Bring on your clubs and parties, your acrobats and magicians, your daredevils, jet cars, motorcycle, helicopters, your sex and heroin, more of everything to do with automatic reflex. If the drama is bad, if the film says nothing, if the play is hollow, sting me with Thurman loudly. I think I'm responding to the play. But it's only play when it's only a tactile reaction to a vibration. But I don't care. It feels like solid entertainment, he concludes. Clearly, Beatty is talking about pacifying people in order to make them happy. He doesn't want people like the January 6th protesters questioning about an election. Rather, he would rather have them not have any opinions at all. Again, that's where we are, isn't it? Better be drugged on heroin, slaves to the state. I think that's really what they think. The post by Ray Bradbury music experience dishonors and disgraces Bradbury legacy. Instead of engaging in intellectual debate, they would rather that there are no options and describe January 6th as domestic terrorists. Exactly. And I think this story is a microcosm of the degeneration that we see in the United States over the last year, right? It is falsehood upon falsehood upon falsehood upon falsehood, which just reflects the falsehoods that it was talking about, right? Read Fahrenheit 451. Read Fahrenheit 451, and pray these idiots gain some form of enlightenment in their life. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for that to happen, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to my Substack if you want to join the paid version. I am not going to try and talk you out of it. My name's Tzvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.